you don't fix that, if you don't heal that within yourself and you don't change that response, you are absolutely solidifying your future of either the relationship falling apart or it being completely unhappy. Now, to your point, it does take two. I tell so many people this. I'm like, I literally think like most relationships start as trauma bonds. Because like we're wound mates. We are literally attracted to people who will reveal wounds within us that aren't healed, that we didn't even know until we're with them. Now, the question is what you just said, is like, can you both grow together and grow separately? Can you be committed to, hey, I'm going to be the best version of myself and do whatever that takes for you? And can you do the same? And that's the difference between people who will live a life together and thrive versus the trauma bond that will just collapse, right?
Yeah. It ends up at the same outcome they've already lived many times before.
I was talking to a client recently. One of my favorite examples is that she and her husband could not talk about money. And she called me out of the blue. She was like, I have to get on the phone with you because I cannot have one more fight with my husband about money. And I was like, cool. So we get on the phone. And she goes in this big, long thing. And I'm like, so it's only money? She goes, mainly, but I just, we've got to figure this out. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, how do you feel about conflict? And so immediately, like, we zone in on, like, that's the symptom. The money argument is what, this is how marriage and relationships work. You have a bigger issue that you are assigning a symptom, right? Like, you're just zeroing in on the symptom. And so I was like, so how do you feel about conflict? Well, she's like, absolutely horrible. Like, I can't stand it. I try to avoid it. I try to run from it at all costs. Like, I hate it. I'm like, okay. So then I asked her, I go like, well, think about your childhood. When was the last time, like, you remember, like, the earliest memory you have of experiencing childhood, like, conflict within the home? Like, what did that look like? And immediately she's like, yeah, I don't really recall conflict in the house. And I was like, all right, well, think about it some more. Like, you just got to dig on it, right? And I was like, think, like, sister, aunt, like, uncle, like, just whatever comes up. Because our minds they're not accidental, right? It'll, like, what needs to be brought up will be brought up. And so she stopped, like, dead in her tracks and was like, oh, I actually do remember. And I was like, okay. She goes, the only conflict I ever really remember experiencing was my mom and my dad, and they had this huge fight, and then my dad left and never came back. To not think about, right? Like, but that's also how our brain works, is it protects us from hurtful memories that we haven't properly processed in a safe space too, right? And so it wasn't until I brought that up that she was like, oh, and I was like, this doesn't have anything to do with money. Yeah, like, you guys struggle to have a conversation around something that is potential for conflict, and you can't handle that, right? And so all to say is, like, here's the thing. It's always a deeper issue than that. So why do people, sorry, that was a long example of, like you said, why do people choose the same type? And the divorce stats show this. Your likelihood of staying married goes down with every marriage after your first marriage.
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Today I'm here hoping to be able to interview Joey Wilder. He is the creator, inventor, founder, you name it.
We have Joey Wilder, first time coming on the show.
But at that moment, I had a choice to make. I either hit this while it's hot, while people are hyped up about it, or kind of let it simmer out. And I've been told by many great mentors that it's all about the timing of things. Welcome back to another episode on the Joey Wilder podcast. Today, I am joined by Katie May, and she's been helping high-achieving women create and experience the intimacy that they truly desire in their relationships since 2020. And through her work, she's guided countless women in bridging the gap between wanting deep connection and actually living by it. And this happens by shifting the way they see themselves, their worth, their role in love. And Katie's approach combines the sharp self-awareness with practical emotional tools so her clients stop chasing relationships and start naturally attracting the right kind of love. Katie, I appreciate you taking time to join me today. I'm so excited we're able to connect.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited. I know it's been like over a year since you were on mine. I can't remember.
Yeah, I believe I did. There was a lot happening in my life at the time, and it was exciting to connect and do that podcast. I believe they enjoyed it. I got some cool messages. But I'm grateful for you to join me.
Yeah.
And I'll just kind of set a frame for anyone listening. Although this is the space that Katie works in, she's also an amazing mom from what I've gathered. And in that, she has perspective from both ends. And today we're actually connecting over a post that Katie had put up. I just straight up messaged you. And then I said, we have to do a podcast over this. And really, there's going to be 4 points to today. But I just want to kind of pre-frame anyone that's listening to this. And today we're going to talk about why your dream partner isn't choosing you. And it really isn't about them at all. And we'll dive into why your mindset might be kind of turning them away. And I would love to just hear your thoughts about this, because I know you had shared that post. So I want to give you the floor and just kind of hear what you have to share about that.
Oh man, there's so much to this. The very succinct way to say this is whenever so my clients are high achieving women, and their primary issue is that they're dissatisfied in their relationships, whether that be their marriage, mostly their marriages. They are in a relationship that they don't necessarily want to break off, but they also recognize that if it keeps going this way, it's not going to work, right? It's not really what they want. And so I'm a huge fan of attachment style work. And it's I have all my clients take this really quick quiz that helps you identify what attachment style you are. And this all plays into a role of how we actually attract and are attracted to people who will help us redo our past. Even if it's something we consciously don't want. So if that's the short of it. That is like the psychology behind it is psychology calls it like homeostasis, right? It's like our brain is constantly trying to stick with the same, even if we consciously are like, no, I don't want that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll relearn the same lesson time and time again. Mm-hmm. I like to phrase this, and I appreciate you sharing that. I like to share it with men in the sense of how many times will you date the same woman in a different body?
Yep.
And most people won't rationalize that. And why do you think that is? Like on your side, I'm curious. I've worked in a lot of marriages. I've got kitchen table stories for days. I've heard so many things, and I'm sure you have as well. Why do you think that is?
It's so interesting because it seems so when you speak to them up front, they're like, they were all so different. What do you mean, right? Like when you ask them that question, like, what are you talking about? They were all so different. And it was like, no, I always love to have my clients, I always like to break down what conflict looks like between them. It's like, give me one example of one conflict you've had with this individual and let's wrap. Because you can tell so much about a person by how they show up in conflict and respond and feel around it. And it's really easy to trace them back to like, hey, where else have you seen this? Huh? And this is how I connect the dots for people, right? Because it's like, oh no, they were so different. It was like, no, but you literally interacted the same way. So it's these individuals. This goes back to what I was saying earlier, was like, how can I give I can give an example of this. It was really good. I was talking to a client recently. One of my favorite examples is that she and her husband could not talk about money. And she called me out of the blue. She was like, I have to get on the phone with you because I cannot have one more fight with my husband about money. And I was like, cool. So we get on the phone, and she goes into this big, long thing. And I'm like, so it's only money? She goes, mainly, but I just, we've got to figure this out. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, how do you feel about conflict? And so immediately, like, we zone in on, like, that's the symptom. The money argument is what this is how marriage and relationships work. You have a bigger issue that you are assigning a symptom, right? Like, you're just zeroing in on the symptom. And so I was like, so how do you feel about conflict? Well, she's like, absolutely horrible. Like, I can't stand it. I try to avoid it. I try to run from it at all costs. Like, I hate it. I'm like, okay. So then I asked her, I go, like, well, think about your childhood. When was the last time, like, you remember, like, the earliest memory you have of experiencing childhood, like, conflict within the home? Like, what did that look like? And immediately she's like, yeah, I don't really recall conflict in the house. And I was like, all right, well, think about it some more. Like, you just got to dig on it, right? And I was like, think, like, sister, aunt, like, uncle, like, just whatever comes up. Because our minds they're not accidental, right? It'll, like, what needs to be brought up will be brought up. And so she stopped, like, dead in her tracks and was like, oh, I actually do remember. And I was like, okay. She goes, the only conflict I ever really remember experiencing was my mom and my dad, and they had this huge fight, and then my dad left and never came back.
That's pretty big to not remember.
To not think about, right? Like, but that's also how our brain works, is it protects us.
Push things down.
Protects us from hurtful memories that we haven't properly processed in a safe space too, right? And so it wasn't until I brought that up that she was like, oh, and I was like, this doesn't have anything to do with money. Yeah, like, you guys struggle to have a conversation around something that is potential for conflict, and you can't handle that, right? And so all to say is, like, here's the thing. It's always a deeper issue than that. So why do people, sorry, that was a long example of, like you said,
that's perfect.
Why do people choose the same type? And the divorce stats show this. Your likelihood of staying married goes down with every marriage after your first marriage. And that is
like exponentially.
Yeah. Like, goes from 50 to 70 to, like, right. And that is because when you go, hey, this relationship didn't work because of them, you go into your next relationship completely blind to your part in that relationship. And the truth is you have something unhealed within you, which even if it was ending because of them, you chose that person, you were attracted to that person, and they were attracted to you for a reason. And you didn't figure out why that reason was. So you're going to go out and you're going to choose that same type of person with that same type of energy and those same types of habits that can recreate that same type of conflict later on in your relationship, because your brain is constantly seeking to make sure you repeat the past because it's what it knows.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, we're conditioned to do what we know.
Yep.
We like, psychoanalytically don't enjoy things that don't feel normal. We're not wired to do those things. That's why, like, this thing called discipline and follow through is so challenging.
Right.
Because it's easier to do the thing that feels like a hamster wheel. It's easier to date the person that we know isn't good for us, that is fun for a short period, but you know it's not your person and it's going to end in the same way, or you're going to make sure it ends in that way. And it's just so interesting. And I believe that comes off the coattail of why someone's mindset may be repelling their dream partner.
Yep.
You know, they will have this vision of the person that, and I've seen this on my end with the men I work with, where they'll have this vision for the ideal partner. And this is usually post-divorce. And I'm not going to quantify time. I feel like I'm asked that frequently. Well, how long should I wait? I don't have a measurable metric for you. It takes time. But in this, they'll have this vision for that person and not realize what comes with that. The upholding of healthy boundaries, the having a value structure that differs than who you were in the past. And sometimes that, I tell men, and I'm going to be a little crass, sometimes that means accepting that, like, I'm not shit. At the end of it, it doesn't matter who was more right, who was more wrong. I've never met a single person, single man, that did not have an equal role or that did not play a role in the separation, the divorce, whatever vernacular someone wants to use to make it sound better for them. I've never met someone who's scotch-free.
No, no one is.
I've met people that were worse than others, and I'm not here to quantify that. All that matters is there's something new that happens after. And if they truly want to learn the lessons and date intentionally and get that dream partner, not date the same man in a different body, same woman in a different body, and end up one of those bitter men that take to social media, and I see a lot of them. I get a lot of them in my messenger. I believe a lot of individuals forget that there's life that happens after, if that happens, and if they go that route. If. That's the thing. It's if. It's not always the case. It's what the statistics show. And I'll also add, there's a lot of people that probably shouldn't have gotten married in the first place.
Oh, yeah.
But they did, and with that comes like the next side of it. In your opinion, and I'm going to move to kind of anecdote number 2, when it comes to like the difference between what someone wants, like I want this person, I want them to have this, I want them to demonstrate these values, versus what they're actually ready for. I can actually personally relate to this. There was a time when I was much younger, and this person's really great. And I've now like cleared this with them because I wasn't happy with how things ended. Because I was a shithead, to be frank. I was not forthright in my intentions, and I used something small to basically just cut ties. And I recognized at the end of learning this lesson in some very big ways and being humbled by life, I'd recognized that I was really good at cutting people off because I never had anyone that was consistent in my life growing up. I moved around 14 different times before I was 13. I was emancipated when I was 16. No one was consistent, only myself. And from that, I had created the dogmatic story that everyone will eventually leave.
Yeah.
And I can't get hurt if I do it first.
Yeah.
So I was never fully exposing myself and never fully all in. And there were some people that I had hurt. And finally, after having life humble me and eating a big dose of that, and God revealing to me that the part of me worth anything is the part of him and me, and that there's a covenant that this book called the Bible actually does a really good job depicting. And it allowed me to really find the lessons in that. But before that, man, I had dated the same woman in a different body, and they looked a lot different. They looked like different people on the surface level, on the surface area.
But something felt
it was
like
the same lesson.
Home, right? Like something just, I always hear, that's like the biggest red flag. It's like, I just don't know what it is, but they just feel like home. And it's like, oh, because it feels like home. Like, because it feels like home. And and was home a good place and where you want to live and where you want to return? And if the answer is no, then it's like, you got some healing work to do, babe, you know? So yeah. That goes. So, sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. No, there was a glitch. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that kind of goes back to like what you're talking about here, right? Is like the difference between like I know I don't want what I saw growing up or what I experienced growing up. That's a conscious level thought, right? I see a flame. I don't want to touch it. I know it's hot. That's a conscious level thought. But the fact of the matter is if we go back to, again, our brain is going to be attracted to what we know best. And if, to your point, you were most comfortable being left, truthfully, that's what you learned. That's what you knew. It's not what you desired, but your brain goes, that's what I know. So that's what I'm going to continue to choose, right? In my case, I didn't grow up with a emotionally safe man at all in my life. I never knew what I was going to get from my dad. And look, outward looking in, I want to say this because this is so important I can't tell you how many people say this, is like, I grew up thinking I didn't even have the right to go to therapy because I had such a good childhood. I had my parents, white middle-class family who grew up in Arizona, and I had an older brother who bullied me, but who didn't get bullied by their older brother, right? Okay, big whoop, right? And it was and then I married the first guy who showed me any kind of love and attention right out of high school, right? And he felt so different from my dad and my brother. I was certain I was choosing somebody completely different than who. I'm not going to do that whole, marry your dad situation.
Yeah, some people do.
But what I chose was another emotionally unavailable man. Mm-hmm. Despite my best conscious
efforts. It was just in a different form.
Just in a different form, right? It was well, I knew my dad as my dad. I knew my brother as my brother. I didn't know how either of them interacted romantically. But what I was attracted to, what I was actually attracted to, and I actually talk about this a lot too, is how we're actually attracted to the red flags. Mm-hmm. The red flags we see in people will leave the relationship and be like, oh, I just ignored that red flag. I go, no, that actually is what solidified you staying in it. You didn't ignore it. You saw it and you said, oh shit, that's actually why I'm staying. Because that's what we do. We go I loved his care. I loved how charismatic he was. I loved his happiness and positivity and all of these great things when he was those ways. And then there would be this other side to him. That was really hurtful and backhanded, but then he would dismiss it, and then I'd be like, what? And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. You were just so nice and so great over here, and so many people love you, and then you can be so hurtful here, and then you tell me I'm crazy for feeling that way because you didn't mean that way and you would never do that. And then I was like, what okay, it must be me. And guess what? Guess what? I grew up feeling my whole life around my own feelings, that I felt too much. I was too reactive. Gosh, Katie, calm down. What's wrong with you? Why are you feeling this way? You shouldn't feel this way. And I never knew what I was going to get from my dad. I never knew who I was going to get from my brother. And I was attracted to the exact same. That's what actually got me to stay. It's called a trauma bond. And so the difference between you actually wanting this healthy, wonderful human being, I wouldn't even have been attracted to somebody like that. I would have been bored by them. I would have immediately been like, he's too nice. I don't like that. Right?
Which happens.
And this is where we repel the very thing we want because we haven't healed what really needs to be healed within us. And that's why those fireworks and that inconsistency felt like, oh my gosh, I don't know what it is about him. I just can't leave. I just don't want anybody else, right? And it's even though he's not good for you, this, I work with women like this all the time. They're in really unhealthy narcissistic relationships. And it's but this is why. It's not him. It's the dynamic he's creating within you that you're so familiar with. And that's what's hooking you. So you're not going to accept that wonderful vision board man or woman you have sitting there because you're not even going to, at the end of the day, be fully attracted to that person if you don't heal that wound within you first.
Mm-hmm. So good. And I completely agree. I mean, I've heard all kinds of things on my side. I've heard both sides. I was sharing with someone recently, I have lots of women that message me on different platforms, whether it's on YouTube, they'll comment, or on Facebook. And I get asked the question, what does it mean when he does this? And it's I have some great answer. I don't have answers to these things most of the time. And because I don't know these people. They're not clients. They're not anything. They're just random people that have found it.
They just want a translation for their guy.
Yeah. What is it? What does it mean when he does this? And I'm like, I don't know. I think it means what he's saying. There's no in between the lines. And I I didn't mean to go off on that tangent, but all of that to say, on your end, when someone is in that dynamic, I always say the relationship as it stands is dead. You can create something new only if you both are in the same place. That also requires a man to have a sense of humility and admit, like, yeah, I've led us into a train wreck. Or I didn't lead us at all and the train has crashed because, well, I wasn't guiding it. Either way, it's choosing to get off the train and get on the train that's going the opposite direction in a new direction and hope that you both are on that journey together. And it's not to say that there's no repentance and apology and ownership. All of that comes along with that. But on your side, what's usually the first step that you would give to someone when they're stuck in that dogma of what they want versus what they're actually ready for?
Oh, I mean, that's literally like every day. That's literally every client I work with. And it was me too, right? This is why I help who I help is, and this is why it's so funny because from the outside looking in, everyone's like, why don't they just leave? You know, like they just need to leave.
Not that easy.
And it's the reason, this is why it's so hard because you've already invested a tremendous amount of time into this person and into this relationship, right? And maybe you have kids, maybe like there's so many layers to why people stay. For me, it was like also biblical. I didn't even believe in divorce, right? It was like, you just don't get divorced. I have a lot of women who come to me with that too. And here's the other part of it is because when I get somebody just fresh into my space and I'm just learning about their situation, almost every guy sounds like a narcissist from their perspective. And so there's sometimes I can be like, okay, I know what I'm dealing with here, like right from the start. But I always want to I want to hope I'm wrong. Like I hope I'm wrong about this guy. And so right off the bat, my first thing is to say, I tell them, your marriage is none of your business. Right now, you need to surrender your marriage because you don't have any control over whether that works or it doesn't at all. You only have influence because you aren't going to nag him into actually doing anything therapeutically worth his time or yours. You're not going to complain to him or criticize him anymore. It's not going to change anything for you guys. You've all done this with the best of intentions because you're terrified your marriage is falling apart. And if it continues, you're right, it will most likely, or you will live in a very unhappy space for a very long time. So I immediately am just like, how do you show up in ways that you, looking on the outside, looking at yourself, if you were like a fly on the wall watching you respond in a space of your marriage, in the space of your conflict, how do you show up that you're not proud of? What's a piece of you that comes out that you're like, where does that even come from? I don't even like that about myself. And that's where we've got to start. Because no matter what happens with your marriage, if you don't fix that, if you don't heal that within yourself and you don't change that response, you are absolutely solidifying your future of either the relationship falling apart or it being completely unhappy. Now, to your point, it does take two. I tell so many people this. I'm like, I literally think like most relationships start as trauma bonds. Because like we're wound mates. We are literally attracted to people who will reveal wounds within us that aren't healed, that we didn't even know until we're with them. Now, the question is what you just said, is like, can you both grow together and grow separately? Can you be committed to, hey, I'm going to be the best version of myself and do whatever that takes for you? And can you do the same? And that's the difference between people who will live a life together and thrive versus the trauma bond that will just collapse, right?
Yeah. It ends up at the same outcome they've already lived many times before.
Yeah, because speaking from my own experience, my marriage was very toxic and my relationship was very toxic for a long time. But that again was something I was very used to, but I didn't want. And then I actually wanted it to be my fault so I could fix it. We kept going to marriage therapists that were like, well, he needs to, and then he wouldn't. And then I'd be like, but what about me? You know? And so like for the first time I sat down next to my own personal therapist about me, was we had separated, and I was like, the shit's gonna sink or it's gonna sail, right? Like,
Yeah.
what do you do here? I guess I figure out something about me here in the process. I still have to be a good mom, and one day I want a good relationship. And when I sat there and I realized, oh my gosh, I have so much toxic responses. Like, I have so many things I need to work on too. It leveled out the playing field, and I was like, man, there might be hope here. And there truly was. Like, there truly was hope for the first time. It was like, man, I actually can come in here and I don't have to respond with anger or hate or cuss or scream or freak out. I can control my triggers because I know the source of them. Like, when you step into that true emotional awareness of yourself and you do that work, it's a freaking superpower, and you can break down unhealthy dynamics in those relationships, right? But then when that other person doesn't want to come along for that ride, and they don't want to look at themselves and do that same healing work, no matter what you do, you can't, it's like wearing a ball and chain and trying to swim up from the ocean, right? Like, nothing you do is going to fix that.
Yeah. That's a shitty situation to be in.
It is. Yes, it is.
As well. And I appreciate your openness in sharing that. And I believe that goes like right on topic of like the third anecdote I had referenced, which is how to become the partner that your dream partner will choose without hesitation. And it's being aware of your triggers, because some people really like to stoke the fire. And it's usually, and I've seen this a lot, because I'll just ask guys like, why'd you say that? Because I'll have them pull up their texts on screen. Like, show me the text. No. Don't take a screenshot. Pull up your screen and share the screen. And I'm like, why did you say this right there? Because you wanted to see a reaction? Or why did you retreat and then you stopped when she came after you? It's because it validates the story in your mind that, oh, they care. They care. We hang up on someone abruptly, which is my number one trigger.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Super disrespectful.
It makes me feel like I'm unheard and that my words are not valid and valuable, which is just an inner childhood wound when I felt like no one was listening.
I mean, I think it's also okay not to like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a shitty thing to do.
It's on a deep level. I hear what you mean.
Yeah. And when that happens and they call back, I would be lying if I said, I care. What it really is a lack of healthy boundaries on the other end, and a lack of clear expression on what I'm feeling. Hey, I'm feeling triggered in this moment. I'll call you back in 20 minutes when we both can feel more comfortable to have a conversation. Instead of, fuck you, bye.
It's my favorite.
And then they call back thing. And I'm like, hey. No, I'm sorry. Like, and then you're back at square one. Then you guys probably have makeup sex, and then you think everything's good, and then you're back there
the next time.
It depends. It depends on, like, I'd say these tiers.
Yeah.
I was like, if you're on tier 4, it's about 48 hours before you're back there. If you're in your home still, it really depends on how stressful your life is. But I existed in that for so long because I learned that from my parents. Get into an argument with one of them, and one was really good with words and the other was really great at silent treatment and retreating. And like for days say nothing. And I was just like, all right, I can do this better. And so then I would ignore them. I got really good at doing that. And eventually I had to take a look in the mirror and recognize these aren't behaviors that I took on out of choice. These are behaviors I took on out of modeling around me. Because when I went to live with my grandma, and I was a really young teenager then, there was one moment where I had a poor reaction, and she was a very proper woman and very classy. And she did one thing. She turned and smacked me and she said, "Don't you ever raise your voice at me again, Go sit down at the table. And don't do anything. And I had never had my grandma do that to me ever. And I thought, like, in my mind, I thought she's going to kill me. She's going to, like,
Wow.
I don't know why. I was like, she's going to kill me right now. But it corrected me, because then she came down and sat at the table and gave me grace, but also correction in that, and asked me why I did that. And I said, I don't know. And she said, no, why did you do that? Where did you learn to do that? Because you learned it somewhere, and I want to know, because there's another way that you can do it, and I want to show you. But I need to know. And 12 years old, sitting at her dinner
God
table,
bless Grandma,
I thought
man.
like my cheek was going to bruise or something too, because
No.
I'd never been hit by my grandma. But that correction put me on a different direction, because it showed me that there's a different way of doing things than what I was shown. Now, that's not to say I didn't watch my grandma pull a handgun out of her glove box once upon a time too. That's why I called her Grambo. But in that, I saw that at a young age, and I always started to ask questions that I believe many people wait until they're in the pitfall of pain to finally start asking. And sometimes, and most of the time for men, that's what it takes, fortunately, which I believe that's why, and I'm moving to the point number one, is why most people land in that phase of they start chasing instead of attracting. And they just have this sense of validation. You know, it's the men that get caught up in the, oh, I'm just going to go have fun. Don't do that. Don't do that. You won't be proud of it later on. And maybe sometimes the feeling like they need to convince someone to constantly choose. Like constantly doing things that, I mean, yeah, it's cute to bring flowers home every day, but it seems like a means to an end there. I'm curious, when it comes to like chasing and not attracting, what have you seen on your end in your work?
I mean, the short answer is all a lack of value. You know, your own personal value. And you're looking for somebody external of you to show you that you are valuable. And so that becomes that chase, right? Is like, if I get these flowers every day, it means I'm something. Right? If I can just get a guy like this, who looks like this, who acts like this, who makes this much money, right? Like, if I can, or in my case, I work with a lot of high achieving women who are really comfortable living in their masculine, and they so desperately, honestly want their man to lead, right? But they can't even receive that, you know? And so like they chase what they can't even have, which is they want to submit. They want so badly to have a soft space to land, but they can't even do it because they're so in a control element of like, I need to be in control of everything. I need to have control of everything. And so even though I desperately want this man to lead in my life, she chose a very passive man, right? And that whole thing just re-solidified the story of her lack of value. And that's like kind of the reverse way of doing it, is she picked somebody who would solidify the fact that she wasn't valuable, that wasn't emotionally attentive to her needs. And therefore she now knows, okay, I'm not valuable. And
So that
even though
leads
she's
to like the
it,
chasing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then it's like, why don't you ever? And why can't you? And why don't you? And why don't we? And you nevers. And like the bitching and the complaining and the nagging that the guys will say, like, I can never do anything right. I can never do anything right, no matter what I do. And it's like, on some level, that might have some truth to it, right? Because I also will have this really interesting phenomenon is when the women actually get what they want. And they're like,
what happens then?
Super uncomfortable. Like I have to coach them through a phase of like, why are you discomfortable? Right? Why are you uncomfortable? They're like, I don't know. I feel guilty for even feeling this way. He's doing everything I want him to do, and he's doing the work, and he's being amazing, and I should just be happy with this, and I'm not, and I feel awful. And it's like, why? It's like, because it's not what you're used to.
So do you feel like sometimes there's a sense of like sabotage in some way, or like shit testing?
Absolutely.
Is this really who you are?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen that on both ends.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Absolutely. Because again, it goes all the way back to, and by the point of like, when I'm working with women and their men have leaned in enough to be like, oh shit, I got to do my work. And the ones that do, right? The men that come along and say, hey, I gotta do my own work, and I'm doing the work. And now they're having these great conversations. And again, it goes back to the hope of, hey, I'm getting on a conscious level what I dreamed of and what I wanted, but there's that other level within me that I still crave that chaos. It's like they have to go through, you have to mourn a loss of that part of yourself. That little, like when you talk about like what you learned out of being modeled, and it's actually like we learn it from necessity as kids. Gabor Mate, you know him, he's just like a freaking genius, right? In child like psychology. And he talks about like kids growing up, like let's just say like, hey, even if it's just like on a mild version, I always like talking about that because like so many people out there who are like, I don't need therapy, I'm fine. And it's like, everyone does. Like even if your parents were like, you're throwing a fit, get out of my face, go to your room until that's done, right? And so this little child who doesn't even have the prefrontal cortex available to control their emotions just learned, oh, if I have emotions, something's wrong with me or something's wrong with them. And either way, I lose my attachment. And as a child, that attachment is a necessity. It's not a luxury. I literally, like, this person feeds me, clothes me, loves me, puts food on. So it is just like you said, you thought my grandma was going to kill me. I was like, yeah, because like as kids, we are literally like just surviving. We are a product of our environment. Yeah. And so we don't just learn it because it's modeled. We learn it out of necessity and survival. It's like, if I act this way, I lose my attachment. And so he says we have two choices. Either something's wrong with them or we internalize something's wrong with us. And if something's wrong with us, then we get to keep our attachment. And
so we internalize it so we can keep the person in our life.
Exactly. Which makes a whole lot of sense why we go out and we sabotage relationships too. Because it's like, if we're still, again, out of necessity, we're going back to what we knew, which was chaos. You hear people say like, I function so well under chaos. And it's like, that's not how you
thrive in chaos.
I thrive in chaos.
Yeah.
You're like, that means something to you. And you reinforce it. And so what do you think you're going to do when you're in a relationship? If you truly believe this about yourself, you're gonna mix some shit up, man.
You're gonna
create
some chaos.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I don't know if I answered the question.
So interesting. No, you did. That was perfect. You know, it's so interesting because I've seen so many different forms of like seeking validation or like trying to convince someone to choose them. And really this energy, that feeling, that showing up that way just comes from a place of lack.
Yeah.
Because true attraction comes when, in my experience, when someone is standing firmly in their values and knowing and recognizing their own value.
Yep.
And I believe that also parlays perfectly into point number 2, which was standards are flexible, or your standards are flexible. And I was actually speaking with a client about this the other day, and I've gotten this guy to I've changed this man's life. He's a younger guy and he just turned 30, and it's really cool to sow into his life. I've led him to faith, and that's just beside the point. That's just a byproduct of working with him. But I was speaking with him about his standards, and he's not in the phase of dating. However, he likes having healthy conversation. And he was sharing with me how he was just entertaining conversation with this person. He was like, it's just kind of a drag every time they text. And I was like, so cut it off in a delicate way. He was like, I I don't want to cause the conflict. I don't want to rock the boat. Like, man, you're probably the same type that doesn't bring up that something is a boundary for you. So you keep it in and you don't bring it up.
People pleasing. Yeah.
Yeah. And he turns to me and he's like, fuck. Okay. And that had come at the coattail of mentioning to him, when your standards are flexible, it means that you're going to find yourself in this place where you're subtly ignoring your needs. And boundaries are simply telling someone how you want to be treated and what happens if you're not treated that way. And he actually got to see that demonstrated at my home with a friend. It was over something small, like a piece of candy that I tossed to this person. And I had believed that they caught both of them. They didn't, and my dog got it, and my dog can get very sick from this. So I brought it up to them, like just right then. I said, hey, you had told me that you caught both of them. Obviously you didn't. In the future, please just let me know. I'm not going to be pissed, but I would have been mad had my dog eaten this and gotten really sick. And it was no big deal. She was like, hey, my bad. I didn't mean to lie. And I said, yeah, please don't feel like you need to not tell me you didn't catch something. Like, I'm not going to be mad, and we can talk about that more if you need to, but I just don't want the dog to get sick. And she's like, yeah, for sure. And he got to see us just have the conversation, and I just went and continued. I think I was playing piano, so I went back upstairs. And he was like, you guys didn't sit there and hash it out. It wasn't like, well, I didn't mean. And he was like, I got to see that modeled. And to bring that full circle, he got to share with this person, like, hey, I don't know if I'm really enjoying our conversation the way I once did, and I don't want to keep you expending your energy with me. You're really great. I just think we're in different places right now. And he got to stand in his standards and not have this flexibility with certain people because you don't want to upset them or they're this person's friend. But I'm curious on your end, like, what have you seen when it comes to this flexibility with standards? Flexibility with standards. Flexibility with standards. Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. 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 And yeah, and that's absolutely fair to do that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Yeah. It lets them like correct right then. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So good. I love that. And it's so interesting how when we don't correct or when we don't stand in our standards, we really just end back up at the same place, trying to refine the parts of ourselves that we lost from trying to please that person or be this person. So interesting.
Yep.
So interesting.
And we all
Love
have
it.
all have different motives for doing it, right? It's like, were you just trying to avoid a conflict, or people pleasing takes so much work. Like that's the funny part about it, is like you're literally doing it to avoid the work, which is like having a tough conversation, rocking the boat, if you will, right? But in all reality, it's like it creates so much more suffering, because you literally abandon what you yourself need at the expense of this other person's behavior. And then they're just going to repeat it. And then the relationship's going to be damaged. And, you know, like some relationships can actually be salvaged if you actually gave it a fighting chance and was willing to engage in a tough conversation and get uncomfortable, right? But it took all that
some people
work.
just don't want that.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, we definitely want it. We just not everybody's willing. It's like, right, it's like everybody wants like millions of dollars, but are you willing to do what you got to do to get it, right? It's like same with relationships. You want this deep, everybody wants a deep, meaningful, intimate relationship to be fully seen, to be fully known and fully accepted. That's at our core the way God designed us, right? And it's like when we deny that for ourselves by like not being willing to do the hard work, by not be willing to look at ourselves and say like, what am I missing? What do I need healing from? That's the growth. That's the whole journey. You sign up for that, and it's a hard journey. It's not easy, but it's so worth it, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's not a one and done thing.
No.
I have met so many individuals that will tell me, "Oh, I did this thing and this thing. I'm good."
Yeah.
And I believe it leads perfectly into the next point, which is like many people want intimacy without being seen. And they crave this level of closeness or what they believe is intimacy, but they still hide the parts of themselves that they struggle to love, that they fear rejection, and the part that's asking for connection while at the same time blocking it. And the dream partner that those individuals are desiring, they can't choose the version of you that they've never fully met if you haven't fully met them.
Yeah.
And that's really like what it comes down to is, you know, all of these are cohesive as well. When we're chasing and not attracting, and we're lacking this sense of validation and value, that comes back to us.
Yeah.
And when our standards are flexible, we just want to please that person because we want them to pick us, like pick me. That was a big core wound when I wasn't picked on the handball court. That's a true story. I didn't like being the last kid that was picked, and it always happened. But when it comes to intimacy without being seen, I guess what's your like cliff notes there on what you've experienced on your end? You know, I've seen men desire intimacy, yet not want to take ownership for the roles that they've played. I mean, in a true way, not a, hey, I'm sorry for that. And I'm not saying in a greatest Victorian letter ever written type of way.
Right.
There's a continuity, a consistency, and maybe perhaps a part of themselves that they need to kill or let die that isn't serving them anymore.
Yeah,
But I'm curious on your end.
it's the protection mechanism gone wrong, right? Like that's really, it's like really similar to what you described earlier on. As like, if I leave them first, they can't leave me. And that's exactly what you see with people who, hey, if they don't really know me, right, then yay, right? Like if they don't really know all these parts of me, I can protect that part of me and I never have to experience any kind of judgment or rejection, right? But then what actually happens is they don't really know you, so they can't really ever, like what you were saying, they can't really truly accept you because they don't really know you. So by trying to protect this version of yourself, by becoming a different version of yourself, not including all of the good, the bad, and the ugly, and exposing that vulnerability, there is no intimacy without vulnerability, period. It's the riskiest thing you'll ever do. This is why love is so painful, right? And can be so painful. And it's also why the person, whoever you do choose and chooses you, that's also why they can trigger you more than anyone else in the world, because they do have access to you and they know you on different levels that people that aren't living with you do, right? So, in short, it's like it's not possible to have the connection that you truly desire to have without actually first allowing yourself the forgiveness for your own flaws. At the heart of it, it all comes down to your own shame. Women I work with are so mean to themselves. Like they're so mean to themselves. And then it's like, we talk about this, how actually women really, really do struggle to be empathetic to their men, like a lot. Very much so. They can be empathetic to their kids all day long, but they really struggle to be empathetic to their men. And like, well, why is that? Well, it's because they are so mean to themselves. I'm sick and I'm up and I'm still cooking and I'm still cleaning and I'm still running my business, and he's sick and he's at the man flu. He's in there laying down, nothing, and I still have to get everything done. I'm like, well, why do you do that? Why don't you go and lay down and rest? Well, because I can't. Why can't you? Well, because then nothing will get done. It's like, says who? And who created that rule?
What happens if it doesn't get done right now?
Right? Who created that rule for you? Well, and then it spirals all the way down into like this deep wound of my value is completely predicated upon the status of my home as a woman, right? And this martyrdom that runs so deep within me that it all has to be a struggle and hard, and I'm so much in it, and everything has to rely on me for me to feel valuable, right? And then it all just circles back to being like this hateful bitch to your husband because you're so mean to yourself. You give yourself no grace. You give yourself no peace. And so why should he deserve any of it? Well, how about you just try giving yourself that?
Yeah.
And then maybe he gets some too in the process. We can't give to others what we don't give to ourselves first. And so if you're mean or if you're judgmental or if you're hurting, if you're trying to hide your part of yourself, it's because you're already ashamed of it yourself. So you need to offer yourself that forgiveness. No one can say something to you and offend you if it's not on some level that something you believe about yourself and judge yourself for. If somebody comes to you and goes, wow, Joey, your hair is really stupid. And you're like, I really like my hair. Like, thanks. Like,
I'd be like, sick, man.
Cool. Like,
I'd probably roast them back though.
Right. But it's like, it's not going to hit you at the core, but it's like,
Yeah.
if you like walk out of a barbershop and you got this this haircut that you're really pissed about, right? And you already feel self-conscious about, and somebody says something, it's going to be a completely different reaction. Just like the dishes example, right? It's like, that was a live example, and I can't tell you how many couples fight about the dishes. That's such a common one.
Oh, I can validate that, and the trash being taken out.
And the trash. The dishes and the trash.
Yeah, like not pushing it down. Don't be a trash pusher downer. Just take it out and put a new bag in it.
It has nothing to do
And
with
the
the
bag
trash.
rips and there's so many deeper things, and there's so much goodness in this. You know, I really enjoy everything you have to share about this, and it perfectly parlays into everything that we were speaking about today. When people are building this life around being chosen, they want intimacy without being seen. They're flexible with their standards and chasing, not attracting. When we're showing up this way, it makes it almost and pretty much impossible for their dream partner to choose them. Yeah. And that's realistically why their dream partner would never choose them. I do have 2 reflection questions before I'm going to have you share any closing thoughts. And this is more so on the coattail of those that want intimacy without being seen. I like to ask people, if your dream partner walked in and you were already with them and they asked you, what's one thing about you that no one knows? What would you hesitate to share with them? If your dream partner walked in and they asked you, what's something that no one knows? What's something that you would hesitate to share with them? That's the part of you that you're potentially ashamed of and don't want to be seen. And for building a life around being chosen and those that are chasing, if your dream partner walked in tomorrow and asked you, what lights you up? Could you answer it without mentioning them? If you can't, then you're probably stuck in this dogma of chasing instead of attracting.
Those are good questions.
They're powerful questions that I've given people. And there's many, I guess, ultimatum-based questions that I like to give to individuals to kind of status check themselves. Like, what's the thing I hesitate to share? And there's so many things that come to mind. Those are the things that I'm most ashamed of, that I'm constantly working on and trying to heal. And it's a journey. But I like to ask myself these questions, and I've been able to work in hundreds and hundreds of marriages, and I've heard the answers to, if I could go back, this is what I could change. And Katie, you said it a lot, and it's never about the dishes and the groceries. It's never about the little things, but those small details are part of the bigger picture in the end. And it really just goes to show this best version of yourself that your dream partner would choose, and becoming that starts with this level of self-respect and clear standards. They don't have to be these extensive, I need this, 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 and this.
Yeah.
But it also comes at the coattail of deep vulnerability and love for yourself. I believe it's fundamentally flawed and selfish that we love someone else if we don't even love ourselves.
Yeah, you can't really love someone else if you don't love yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bible
Any closing
says,
thoughts?
Love them.
Go ahead.
Love them as you love yourself. If you don't love yourself, how are you going to do with other people? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we have so many people out there that do, and it's really almost as if we love them enough, and they love me back, then I can love myself.
Yeah.
It's the same people that say, I'll be happy when I have $100,000. I'll be happy when I have a house to live in. I'll be happy when. No, you won't. You'll just raise the bar to the next thing and get on the other side of the last thing you said you would be X thing from. Katie, I love today's conversation. Where can we find you? And what's something that you would share with a woman or a man who is on the fringe and feels like giving up?
Oh, it feels like giving up, like on themselves,
feels like giving up just on the marriage.
The marriage.
Yeah. Oh. And where can people find you after that?
I would say that this is what I tell people this all the time, because my marriage did not end successfully. I did get divorced. But I have no regrets. And I can say this honestly because I never gave up on myself in the marriage. And so when it ended, I knew without a shadow of a doubt, not only did I know without a shadow of a doubt, I had done absolutely everything I possibly could, but I also learned about myself and healed so much within myself that I left in a very healthy place. And so I would say that if you're on I never tell women to leave, right? I mean, if they're obviously in a dangerous situation, yes. But like when they come to me on this whole, like, I just can't do this anymore, Katie. I just can't. But I just don't know if I want a divorce. I'm like, done. Then that's your decision. You're not doing anything right now. Heal yourself, do the work on yourself, and it will become completely clear what you need to do when you need to do it. And it won't be a matter of should I stay or should I go? The answer is, have you done everything you possibly can, and have you worked on yourself? And if you can't answer that, then get working on yourself first. And then you will get clear on what you need to do. And pray. And always pray. Like I would never be where I was today or have the level of wisdom or the ability to help women like I do without turning to God in the midst of all of this and wondering, like, why am I going through all of this? Like, what can I learn from this? It's never a waste of time. It's not. As long as you're learning from it. If you're staying and you're doing the same shit over and over again, then yeah, you're wasting your time. If you're making progress within the relationship with yourself and you're using it as a self-development growth tool, get working. Stop hiding. Stop trying to stay away from the discomfort. No new relationship's going to fix this. That's what I would say.
Yeah, no new relationship and no Band-Aid, baby.
No Band-Aid.
It's sad. I mean, I love children and they're a gift, but some people will utilize that to try and save the relationship.
Oh gosh, yeah, no, that is the worst.
It just makes it more challenging.
Yeah.
So Katie, where can people find you? I'm so excited to get this out, and I appreciate you sharing your time, your wisdom, your thoughts, and everything. Where can we get in touch with you and find you?
So you can find me on Facebook. I'm Katie Mae, Katie, and then Mae. So you can find me there.
Awesome.
I have a free Facebook community called Intimacy Revolution. And you can also find me on Instagram, same handle, either Katie Mae or Intimacy_Revolution. And I'm on TikTok as well.
I hate the small talk, please quit telling me about you.